Did you happen to see pictures from Eschenspiel of all the nice demo tables a lot of the vendors had? And you're wondering what most of those are? Those are game toppers, and you can have one yourself. To find out more, go over to GameToppersLLC.com.
Hey y'all, it's time for Rolling Dice and Taking Names, recorded live from Mega MooseCon. On today's episode, the guys talk about the games they played at the show, including the new Terra Mystica expansion, Merchant of the Seas, Stronghold Undead, Ankh'or, and of course, the food they ate. Plus, Adam joins Marty to discuss how factions work in Games Workshop Age of Sigmar. How did you have time to do all that? And the grass.
And welcome to Rolling Dice and Taking Names. This is episode number 184, Enter the Sandman. I'm Tony.
And I'm Marty.
And we are coming to you from Mega MooseCon in the official green room. It's green. I didn't know they really had green rooms.
Yeah, this is more of a bridal suite, I believe, when the people can get ready and everything. But the walls are green, and thank you to con organizer Mark Kell for giving us this space. We were setting up out in the hall, and it was kind of echoey. And he's like, yeah, it's kind of echoey in here. Do you guys want to go to another room? And you were like, I don't hear anything. It's like echo, 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 echo.
So I don't hear well. But I get maybe it's not it's teal.
Yeah, and it has a rounded corner.
I see that.
So this only has 3 corners in this room.
Well, you know, people are like, that's great that you're describing to us a room you're sitting in on your audio podcast. I know. And they're like, oh my God. So first off,
it's going to be another one of those episodes.
Yes,
right?
It is. Well, maybe we'll cut right to the chase and get to the food.
The food, yeah. Look, last time people actually noticed this. We mentioned some games before we ever mentioned food. So we tried to switch it up a little bit, and people were confused by that. It's like, wait a minute, usually I skip the first 15 minutes of your show and get straight to the games, and then y'all covered games before then.
I know, I don't know what's wrong, but we've had 2 big food events.
Okay, yes, we have.
We just recovered from BooBQ.
Yes.
And I got to see my favorite thing. I got to see the ghost on the toilet.
Mm-hmm. Now, for those who don't know, BooBQ
is at your house on Saturday. It's an event that occurs where Marty has everybody over. They decorate the house. It's beautifully decorated for Halloween. And our good friend Steve Gibbs, who designed the original Rolling Dice and Taking Names logo.
Yes.
He throws a bunch of butts on the grill, some ribs, and everybody brings a side. I was in charge of the pasta salad this time and snuck a little green in there, had a little broccoli, some edamame, and then Donna doctored it up so it tastes good. Okay, he's scratching his back for those of you who can't see this. And we had
the mic stand.
With the mic stand. And then we played games. Some of us played games.
Yes.
Some of us didn't. Well, I was sitting there.
Yeah. Please tell me this story, because you walk in to an event where we're going to be playing games, and you just basically walk around. Tony, you want to play? No, you're just walking around.
One of the things that I dislike is when someone's fixing to show up. All right. By the way, fixin' is the thing down here in the South we use interchangeably as one of our words. I'm fixin' to, or there's fixins on the plate. We do go Google it, people. So, and Mark was going to show up around 1:30.
Okay.
And so I'm like, okay, well, y'all go ahead and get started playing your game that you're going to talk about. What was the name of that again?
Hako Onna. Haka space ONNO. It's a Japanese game. It's a game from Japan. It's a Japanese game from WizKids Games, which I'll talk about in a second. But yes.
Not to get confused with John Lennon's wife.
Which we ended up calling the game Yoko Ono a lot, because it sounded a lot like that. Because one person plays as a ghost, and it's Yoko Onna. And I would just say, I'm Yoko Ono, and I'm coming to get you. Anyway.
Yeah, so that was going on. And then Kevin and I forget who else, Todd, and I forget who else. No.
Okay, it doesn't really matter.
Doesn't matter.
People are showing up.
People were showing up. They sat down and played Terraforming Mars.
Yes.
And I'll come back to that. And
You keep coming back. All right,
Well,
so
yeah,
you're
just- I
dropping
keep
these
it-
little
yes,
breadcrumbs.
yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
you'll back up. All right.
so I'll back up. But Mark was on his way.
Okay.
You said Mark would be here shortly after 1.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Or he told somebody.
He told somebody, and he showed up at 2:20.
Okay, yeah, which was not a little after 1.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
But I was thinking if he showed up, I would hate for him to come in and have 2 fairly long games, 2 to 2.5 hours, and sit around doing nothing, which was my task.
Well, that's a good friend. That's being looking out for other people. That's very nice of you.
And then we went and played Watergate, and I won. Mm-hmm.
As who, Nixon or the
I was the editors.
editor?
I was the editor. So it came down to the last play too. So that
That game seems to always come down the line. Great game. If you haven't
game.
played Watergate by Capstone, that's where the stone came from. Go check it out.
right. And backing the truck up, beep 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 beep. So when you play a game and you're playing with people who have played it a lot,
Yeah.
and you've only played it maybe once or twice.
Talking about Terraforming Mars?
Yes.
Okay.
Terraforming Mars, if you know the cards and all that, there tends to be a disparity in points.
I totally agree. Yes, and those people who play a lot, right?
And they're playing here at Mega MooseCon. They were playing it again, and I've already been handed my hind end twice by Nate into Pret-a-Porter and Tapestry. Did I really want to have my hind end handed to me again in another game?
That's fair.
And so that's why I said, no, you guys go ahead. Because when you sit down and play a game like that, it's kind of like sitting at a blackjack table where you can mess up people who are really into it if you take cards when you shouldn't, and they get mad at you. I could see me screwing the game up, screwing up and throwing off strategy, and I don't want to do that.
But then you could have sat down and played with us, but I guess you decided, well, I'll just wait until Mark shows up.
There you go.
And then ended up walking around for an hour doing nothing.
I read rules.
Of what?
It was a game that we didn't get to play, I'm sure.
You don't even remember.
No, I don't. I don't remember. That day is a blur.
Well, then can I go back and tell you about Yoko Ono?
If you want to.
Or Yoko Ono?
Did I back up the truck enough to get back to where I started?
I don't even know where you began.
Well, we started with Enter the Sandman.
Wow. So we're going all the way back to the very beginning of the show. Okay.
Well, but that's because we were going to call this song
Space Cowboys by Steve Miller.
But it's not real?
Space Cowboy. It's Joker. But we could have connected it to the movie Joker that's right now.
Yes, I still haven't seen it.
But it's worth seeing. But anyway, we could have connected to that, but we wanted to call it Space Cowboy because we're going to talk about a game later on by the company Space Cowboys. Some people call me the Space Cowboy, but that's not the name of the song because I'm a joker, I'm a toker, I'm a midnight smoker.
Yes, but the game we're going to talk about, Ankh'or.
This is going to be a long discussion.
Yeah.
It's Ankh'or, Ankh, but then an apostrophe OR. So Ankh'or, but it looks like anchor.
And it's set in the Egyptians, because we got the pyramid here, and therefore Enter the Sandman, sand, desert.
Oh, well, there you go. It took you a while to get there, but you did it.
We got there.
Yeah, you got there.
All right, tell me about this game where I saw you sitting over there watching people stack stuff and you laughing like a little girl.
Because I was playing as a little girl.
Okay, see that lead in? That's a lead in.
That was an amazing segue. So in this game, you play as a little girl who was, I don't know if she was murdered. They don't really tell the story, but her ghost haunts her house, and these people come in. The other players are inside this house, and their goal is to either escape or maybe put this little girl's soul to rest by pairing her doll with her bones, thus releasing her spirit from the house. It's kind of freaky. So that's why I wanted to play it for BooBQ, because it's a Halloween-inspired game. So this is a 1 versus many game. So I'm playing as the ghost, and my goal is basically kill them. Find them, kill them. I'm hiding out. Meanwhile, they're walking around between rooms. You have a variable map set up, and on their turn, they can move between rooms. They can peek at objects in the room, and those objects may be items that can help them in their search. Maybe they find my bones. Maybe they find a combination to a safe. They're trying to determine a 3-digit combination to a lock that they can get the keys to. And once they get the keys, they're looking for a secret door to escape the house. So basically, they'll walk around this house, looking under tiles, peeking. But here's the really cool part. Here's the stacking part I believe you saw.
Yeah, I saw this, but I've got so many questions just from that. But go on.
Okay, no, what's your questions before we even get to that?
So first off, you're the ghost. Are you the ghost of the girl?
I'm the ghost of the girl.
So why is it when you try to help Ghost and you're trying to put her doll, you're trying to help release her soul, why is the ghost trying to seek revenge?
Because she doesn't know that they're in there trying to help them. That's just one of the win conditions. It could be they're just trying to get out and not even help her.
Well, why'd they go in the spooky house?
I don't know why they're in there.
And who would have locked the how can a ghost, unless it's Patrick Swayze from Ghost, be able to turn a dial to lock keys in there?
You have a lot of valid questions that unfortunately I cannot answer.
I'm sorry if I'm blowing the theme up here, but I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm like, what? Wait, how does it? I mean, not that it's the fact that it's a ghost and that ghosts are real or anything. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to try to blow that because, people might get upset because some people may believe in ghosts. I didn't even try to push on that one. But I am saying, why do you guys put keys in a safe to lock it away so you can't? Because obviously this ghost wants to kill him. And he's got a count going. He's probably got little marks somewhere of all the people. She has come in and tried to help her and said, no, I don't want your help, so I'm going to kill them all. And then I'm going to lock the key so you can't get out. And you got to know the combo because I don't remember it. It's written down. That's not you're peeking at. So anyway, you're stacking discs.
Jeez. Oh, gosh. All right. So there's this little cardboard tile on the table that has a little plastic nub on one corner of it. And on your turn, you have to take a wooden disc and lean it on that nub. If there's nothing there, you got to lean it on that nub so it's tilted a little bit. And then you get to take your turn. The next person takes another disc and tries to stack it on top of the existing disc. So you're making a stack of little discs, and eventually they're going to fall because they're tilted to one side. Once somebody places a disc that causes a little stack of discs to fall, that makes noise. And all of a sudden, the ghost is like, oh, I heard you. And actually, when that happens, the ghost is supposed to scream. It actually says in the rules to scream. The play stops, and then the ghost takes their turn. And so they had these special abilities that they find over the course of the game, because one of the things they can find is pages to her diary. And if they find a page to her diary, it unlocks a spell card that she can potentially use on her turn that can do different things. It's making life easier for her. It's one of those things, the longer the game goes on, the easier it is for her to win because she has more abilities. But what's cool is at the end of her turn, she tells everybody to close their eyes. And her token is on one of the spots face down on the board. And she takes her token and moves it to an adjacent room. And maybe there's one of the abilities that said you can move 2 rooms. And then everybody opens their eyes. So after every time that little stack of discs falls over, the ghost is going to change locations. And so they're trying to deduce where's the ghost. They don't want to peek at any tiles in a room where the ghost might be, because all they got to do is they see the ghost instantly dead, and then their spirit ends up helping the little girl ghost. So it's this nice little manual dexterity thing that's going on with these little discs, and everybody's trying to be so careful, and they're trying not to breathe. And if any time that stack of discs falls, even if they accidentally bump the table when they're discussing or getting up to get a drink, the ghost triggers. It doesn't matter how they fall. If they tumble, the ghost gets to go. It's a cute little horror game.
Okay, so
Cute is maybe a weird word, but
yeah.
it's kind of freaky. It was very eerie for them, and I tried not to talk. They say in the rules that you're supposed to be almost like a GM and really take into the role and create a great experience for them. Also, what I do is whenever a noise is made, I actually point to the room that I'm in. There's several tiles in a room, so they don't know which tile is mine, but at least they'll know where I was. But after they close their eyes, I could have stayed in the room. I could have gone to a different room.
Are there different room setups? I know y'all had 2 floors on this one.
There's 2 floors and a basement.
2 floors and a basement.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can arrange them. Is there a set setup or is it random?
Random. You flip over a tile. Each time you flip over a tile, you put it adjacent to another tile as long as the doors match. So every time you play, it's going to be a variable layup. And the tiles that go out on the board of the different items are also different every time you play.
Now, I know while y'all were playing and I came over and I didn't bump the table and upset anybody, but I did ask, hey, have y'all ever stacked all the discs? Because there's 5 of them.
There's 5 discs, and there's different difficulties. One of the discs, the red one, has a little plastic nub on it. And so 2 of the discs are flat. Then you place a red one which has a nub. Then there's 2 other discs. In the more difficult games, there's a red disc that has a little bigger nub or notch on it to make it even more tilted. And in the hardest game, you use those 2 red discs to make it even tougher to play.
And I asked, I said, hey, have y'all been able to successfully stack these? Y'all have been playing for almost 2 hours. And I got a resounding no.
The most they ever got was maybe 3 on there before it fell over.
Well, that's because they started out putting it on nub, and then they had 2 black, and the next one was the red, and then that was it. They were done.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's not like you get a shot. I sat there and watched them. You got to lower it gently down, and they drop it, and everything will fall off.
Mm-hmm.
And then y'all would do your thing over there. Mm-hmm. Now, did you win?
I actually did not win. Now, I was actually trying to take it easy. There were some other spells I could have done to make it hard, but I can tell they were getting kind of frustrated.
I would have been throwing some discs.
Because the deck was really stacking up against them. So I just wanted to create fun. They happened to find the doll, and they worked together. And here's the thing. It's all open discussion. They can say stuff that they found, but they could be totally lying. But anything they say, I can hear. So it's like they can't secretly say anything. So I get to hear everything that they say about maybe what they saw, what they didn't see, etc. So they happened to find my bones, or her bones, and they found the doll. And they took the doll to where the bones was, which released the spirit. Okay. So they ended up winning the game. My biggest knock on the game was it did last a little long. For this type of game, everybody was kind of getting tired. It was like, we're kind of ready for this to be done. So it stayed on the table a little bit longer than what people liked, but people enjoyed the experience. And the idea of stacking the tiles added a little element to the game. And the idea of it's like, shh, gotta be quiet. We gotta be quiet. Put that disc on, cluck, and it's, oh, I'm alive. Or not really alive, but I heard that, and I come and chase them down and stuff. I don't know. It's a really eerie themed, Japanese themed game. It's kind of, you remember the Ring, the horror flick, The Ring, where the girl comes out of the TV?
No. The horror flick
from the 90s,
no,
or early 2000s.
Poltergeist was the only thing in the TV I know. And I do.
Okay, never mind.
I do not.
It's Japanese inspired horror.
Okay, I do not watch horror films.
Okay,
plain and simple. Slashers or any of that? Nope, not going to do it. Not going to do it.
All right, that's Hako Onna, out right now from WizKids Games. Again, we had a good time playing it. It plays like up to 5 players, with 4 people being like the ones in the house and then the ghost. Again, it's one of those things that probably stayed on the table just a tad too long. But if you're running the game, that's the nice thing about it. You can shorten the game by making it easier for them or making it harder for them as you play the game.
Now, I unfortunately had to leave because there was a McCree event going on. And before I left, Marty talked about this game on episode 183, Gates of Delirium.
Yes.
Yes, you did.
From Renegade Games.
From Renegade Games. And so we got to play it. He let me try it since I didn't get to do it last time. And one of the things is, I do have a question. Your wife had to leave too because I believe your youngest had homecoming.
Correct.
And she had to go to do pictures or take him somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so she left the table, and yet she still won.
That's Vanessa. Yep, somehow she pulls out. It was very, very late in the game.
Yes, but still.
And there was only a couple turns left, and she told one of her friends, it's like, on my turn, I was going to do this and this and this. But and you can go back and listen to our previous episode to get details of Gates of Delirium. But let me tell you, what did you think of the game?
Good pace.
Yes.
Very good pace.
I mean, literally what takes 10 to 15 seconds per person to take their turn.
One of the things, there was a lot going on. More plays are needed of that. I hope you don't wait till next Halloween to do it. The reason why I say that is I didn't play it as well as I would have liked. I thought I was doing well, and then Vanessa kicked my butt, and I came in last, and you were second or third. I forget what Casey was. But anyway, it was one of those things where that insane, are we playing insane or sane on that side of the token? There's the ability to flip it in the middle to mess someone up.
Yes.
So you have that, I don't want to say hate drafting or hate, but you can change other people's strategy. You may want to force them because you really need to be watching what's going on the other side. It's moving fast, but you got to be watching.
Right. And it's one of those things too, like you said, and for those who didn't listen to the last episode, there's 2 sides of the card, sane and insane. And whoever the first player is decides, okay, this round we're playing the sane side of the card or the insane. And lots of my decisions were made, like, say, for example, you were trying to open a gate. And you need so many colors of a gate card that you would get on the insane side in order to open the gate. And when you do, that's how you score a lot of points. Well, if I saw one of those colors that you were looking for was available, I thought, well, I'm not going to play insane this turn. I'm going to play sane so that you can't open that gate. But like you said, there are tokens that you can get over the course of the game that you can spend on your turn to force it to change to the other side. So there's a lot going on in this game. But like I said, the love I had of the game was you got 5 cards on your hand. On your turn, you're like, well, I'm going to play this card to put it out an investigator. I'm going to play this card and either open a gate or the other different types of actions, and then 10 seconds later it's the next person's turn. We were constantly moving the first player token around the game. It moves quick.
Yeah. Now, one thing on mine, I noticed there's the one section where you can complete a map to get some points near the end.
Right.
It seemed like I kept getting the same quadrant of the map. There's 4 quadrants, and I kept getting the northeast. I'm like, oh, this is going to make it easy on which one I want to play. Now, just to go back to something you said if they haven't listened to 183, why are they listening to 184? Wouldn't you usually listen to a podcast in order?
That's for people who only check in to us like every so often.
Or they might have missed the discussion of Gates of Delirium because they thought it was going to be about food.
That's true, because it was at the beginning of the show and they totally would have missed it.
And speaking of food, which we just did, I know I missed out. I mean, incredible food. The barbecue was flowing. All these desserts. We had intestine sweet rolls at the beginning.
Oh, those are so good. And Vanessa made those again this week.
She did.
Our youngest son had his friends over, so there were cinnamon rolls that looked like intestines. Mm-hmm. It was amazing. She did a great job.
She always does. But I saw in the refrigerator, I couldn't get to it. So in a way, I had to leave. But she made her chocolate trifle bowl.
Yes.
That is so good. Was there peanut butter in there?
No. What it is, it's brownie, Cool Whip, chocolate pudding topped with crushed Butterfinger. Is that it?
I'm just pausing there, wishing I had, thinking of what I unfortunately missed there. After I left, what did you end up playing?
We played Era from Plan B Games. Some people had not played that, so we brought that out and played it again. People tended to like it. It's one of those things that after it was over, they were like, I like it, but I don't know if it's worth the price to get it like it. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of an expensive game.
Yes, I understand that. Now, they did come out with stickers for it, because that was one of the things that, I think you can go and request stickers or something along. Just go check out Plan B's website.
And just pay shipping, I think, and they'll send you just like $1.50.
Because one person talked to said, the stickers make a big difference.
Right. It is hard to see. It's an easy game to teach, and I did really well. It's one of those things. It seems like you tend to win if you can circle in your entire city because you double the points of what's on the inside.
And I wasn't there to roll a bunch of rotting fields.
Nate tried to.
Okay.
He just didn't succeed as well as what you did in order to do Scorched Earths is what it's called. Yeah, to get it out on the board. So, we played that. And then we pulled out Dinosaur Island from Pandasaurus Games. Have you played that one?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. I mean, I have, Marty. Dinosaur Island. It's a great game. I don't know.
Anyway, so we wanted to pull it out and play it. It was a very popular game from last year's. Combination of multiple things. It's a tile laying game. It's mainly probably a worker placement game, resource management. It's kind of a bunch of different things rolled into one. And then to finish off the night, come on, you can't do a Halloween event without playing. Well, we also played Blockbuster. But no, after we played the Blockbuster video game, we played Don't Mess with Cthulhu.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have
a few social games I'll do.
Don't Mess with Cthulhu is one of my favorite social deduction games, and we topped off the night with that.
Okay, so a successful BooBQ. Are you going to do it again next year?
Of course. We'll always do it, try to, hopefully. Yes, we plan on doing it again next year. Speaking of food, and speaking of the last episode, are you happy now that today Kent brought you some football-shaped Bowberry biscuits from Bojangles?
Oh, that was so good. That's the way to kick off a Mega MooseCon right there. Hot Bowberry, all that sweetness. Get that blood sugar raised high so you can be ready to game all day. And that's basically what we had to do. We had to stay sharp today.
Because if you didn't listen to our last episode, because you don't listen in order, Tony was trying to get a Bowberry biscuit, and he thought there was a conspiracy because every Bojangles he went into didn't have one. So somebody at the con today brought a whole box of them, so that you could say, see, there's not a conspiracy. They actually exist.
They do exist.
But the funniest thing was you shared a picture of them online. It was basically a box of football-shaped biscuits with vanilla icing on it. And Rob Davio on Twitter said, hey, I spot chicken breast covered in gravy. It's like, no, Rob, you do not spot that.
Well, when you do a quick look, what can we say?
That's true. And it's like, now all of a sudden it doesn't look as appetizing as what it did, because it's like, oh, now it's gravy and chicken.
And speaking of 183, most comments received were about the McRib. And the War of the World.
Oh my God.
Not about the games.
So how many games did we cover last time?
I think
6 games?
6. Yeah.
We did like 6 games on the cover. We did a 30 to 40 minute deep dive into one of the hottest games right now, Tapestry.
Nobody cares.
And on social media, on our Pod Pledge Slack page, on our BGG Guild,
There's 1589.
there's only 2 things people talked about. One was, do you like or dislike McRibs? And you put up a poll. Most people really don't care for them. And the other thing was this little bit of information that Adam, my son, had when we talked about the War of the Worlds board game, where we talked about the albums that we had and how the albums were, one album was side 1 and side 3, and the other was side 2 and side 4. And we were confused on why it was like that. Tony, I kid you not, I probably got 8 to 10 emails or messages or text explaining why that was. I feel like an idiot for not figuring it out. But here's why that is. So remember in the old days when record players, you could stack records on top of each other on the little spindle. The needle arm would go up, release a record, it would drop, the needle arm would move on the record, play the record, and when it was done, the needle arm would move away, and the next record on the spindle would drop on top of it. So if you had 1 and 3 on one side and 2 and 4 on the other, you could stack the albums so that they would drop, then the other drops, and then after that side's done, you just flip both albums over and stack them again. That's why they're numbered the way they are. We couldn't figure it out.
You know, for me, it's putting the little disc in the 45 so you could stack them. So for those of you that
The little disc, I know what you're talking about. The converter. It's the little converter that goes in a little spindle.
Because, you know, for album players back then, you either had the big Hawking thing that went on the where the record would slide on the whole
Hawking thing. You mean the big plastic cap that was the same diameter as the hole of a 45?
There was the adapter that would go on the rod that came out of the record player.
Yes.
That was, you could stack the 45s without the little disc.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And then there was a little plastic disc you could put in the center of the 45 that was the size of the small spindle that was on the record player.
So by definition, back then, a playlist was how many 45s you could stack on. I think you'd get 5 or 6. And I mean, you'd stack them on there.
So even before mixtapes, you had a mixed stack of records that you could put on the record player.
And that was your playlist.
Oh, that's so funny.
And then based on the number of little discs you had for your 45s, you could have a whole bunch of playlists, you know, and just mix and match. So, you know, hey, that was interesting. And with the more you know, we educate here as well.
No, and I appreciate all those people reaching out to us. I just think it's the funniest thing that our audience cares not one bit what we say about a game. We must bring zero value to the table when we talk about games. But when it comes to lawnmowers and food, and you guys are idiots for not knowing why the record's numbered that way, that's what people interact with us about.
Hey, I'm surprised you got 8. My grass is growing well, by the way. Got some good
seedlings.
Got some seedlings. They're cute out there because we're getting a lot of rain finally. I'm happy about that. So let's get to something that nobody cares about.
Games.
Games. Let's talk some games.
So we got to Mega Moose Con,
yes,
which is going on this weekend, and you did not come last night.
No, I did not come last night. No,
I did, and because of that, I got a game to the table that I knew you had zero interest in. So one of my favorite games of all time is Terra Mystica from Z-Man Games. They just released a brand new expansion called Merchants of the Sea. Mm-hmm. I was super excited. I said, I'm bringing it. And you said, okay, I have really no interest in it. I know you're not a big Terra Mystica fan. You said that's one of those games that you feel like it just doesn't click for you.
Yes.
It's
can't. A great game. I mean, there's a lot of strategy concentration. It's a great game. It's one of those that maybe if we were to play it more, I would really get into it. It's the same thing with. I'm sorry. My mic's being moved for me. Don't let it fall off the table. Okay, there we go. Much better. I'm leaning over, trying to relax here. So yes, Terra Mystica, just like Ragusa. I mean, there's. We kid about Ragusa, but for me, I need to get some more plays in for that, and it will grow on you.
All right, so
just like mold.
Wow. So Merchants of the Sea. I think there is more additions and bigger changes to this game than there was with the last expansion, which added a couple factions.
Well, didn't the last expansion also change how the turn order went?
It does, which really helps the overall game. But I'm talking about the things that you can do on your turn is drastically changed in this game because they add ships. They add a whole new extension that you put beside your faction board called a shipyard. And when you first put down your dwellings at the beginning of the game, you get to put out a dock. And on your turn, there are ways to build a ship that you can put into the little rivers.
Okay.
And those ships can move based on your shipping value. You may not remember this. There's a little area on your board that shows your shipping value, how far that you can reach down a river in order to get to another hex to terraform it or transform it or whatever like that. Well, now that still is the same thing, but it's also used as how far you can move a ship down the river. And what's so cool about these ships is they can do multiple things. Once they get down the river ways, whatever land they're adjacent to, you can actually terraform that land and start a brand new dwelling. So what that does, that opens up the map drastically. One of my issues I used to have with Terra Mystica is you were kind of isolated where you were and you weren't going to go too far from there. Now with ships, and you can have up to 3, you could be moving all over the board and start new buildings all over the board. And that's important because if you build cities, you get these bonus tokens, etc. So now this really opens up the map. So the ship can be used if it's adjacent to a tile, it can convert. It can also, if you want to build a dwelling there and paying the cost of the dwelling, which is a little house, you can rip up your ship, theoretically, figuratively, rip up your ship and put a dwelling in its place for free. So you send a ship out and basically convert that ship into a dwelling.
Oh, that's what they did when they explored and colonized. Yes. They took the ship and they
took it apart and then
built the housing.
So very thematic. That's what you can do here. You don't have to. You could just pay for the cost of a dwelling and do it. But there's one other thing. You can take a ship into a tile that's adjacent to the river of somebody else's building that they've built there, and you can trade with them. There's a little chart that shows, depending on what type of building is there, you can trade with them and get stuff. The bigger the building, the more stuff that you get. And you can get these little trade tokens in your color that you put underneath the building to show that you've already traded there. Once you trade with a location, you can't trade with it again. So now you can send these ships out to go out and trade with your opponent's buildings and get stuff.
Do your opponents have to agree?
No. But what they can do is they can get what's called power, the little purple pellets. They can get that in return. Just like when you build adjacent somebody, you build like a market or something adjacent to one of them, they can get something in return for being adjacent to you. The same thing happens here. They can get power.
Okay, so yeah, I would say that is trading versus raiding. Okay.
Oh, big time. No, it's definitely not raiding. It's definitely they get something and you get something and they get something.
Okay.
And it can't be stopped.
All right.
There's also a shipyard that can be built. Some of the other area of the map, and you can launch ships from your docks or your shipyards. And once you unlock your shipyard, it opens up other abilities. Each of the little new boards for the factions, some of them have new abilities based on the factions. And then some of the bonus tiles are brand new that has to go along with the ships. So this whole new ship mechanic changes a lot of the stuff. There's a whole new board. There's a whole new board with a new map on it. One's lakes, one's fjords. And so there's two new maps. There's no new factions or anything, but you got all these extra wooden bits and wooden tokens that now every faction could use. Drastically changes the game. But there is now so much to do on your turn. It does add some length to the game, in my opinion. And I know the look on your face is like, I have zero interest in this. Because now this is just one other thing that you can do of, and when you move your ships, you move all your ships, and then you have to resolve all of them. Well, I'm going to move this here, and I'm going to take this ship, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to move this here. I'm going to trade with that one here. And some of the buildings, like if you trade with one of the shipyards, you actually get to move again. So then you move all your ships again, which just lengthens, a player's turn. We played with 5 players. Do not play with 5 players. Not with this expansion. It just adds too much time. I say 3, 4 at the max, to be honest with you.
How long did you play? Well, you had to learn the game, so I'm going to knock off about 30 minutes.
So if you knock off 30 minutes, 3 hours.
That's not too bad.
It's not, but it's too long for Terra Mystica.
Okay.
3 hours is too long for Terra, but again, 5 players. Oh, and 3 of them had never played. So take that into account.
Okay.
No, 4 of them never played, and one of them only played once, and that was 6 years ago. So it was a lot of new people on board. But I'm going to tell you, if you like Terra Mystica, please go get this expansion. It will totally change the game for you. You may decide, I don't want to use the ships this time. That's fine. but it adds a whole new mechanic with this shipping mechanic that I think is just, it changes a lot more than what the other one did.
Well, I like the idea of the shipping mechanic because getting the power was one of those things that was kind of, I really need the power. I need to be able to do this. And it helped out that game, if I remember correctly. Because I know you don't put Terra Mystica on because of the length of it for me. But power was always something I was like struggling with. Okay, I need this to this because I need more. And that really does add a benefit to the game.
Yeah.
Just like that turn tracker did on the expansion.
Yeah.
The second expansion. Now this sounds like, hey, here's another component that's going to really help ramp up the game.
It is another component that you now must consider. It's another component that can be used for generating victory points and generating resources, and you can't do it all. So it does add this one extra thing that you have to think about. So I'm just giving you a heads up. There's a little bit more there that you have to deal with, but I think it's a nice addition to the game, and I gladly welcome it, and for sure it will stay with the rest of my Terra Mystica stuff. Oh, and a shout out. I went out and ordered the nice little bags from BGG for Terra Mystica, where each of the bags are colored based on the faction. It's these nice little draw bags. They're nice like satin cloth. Could get all the pieces in there. Really, really nice bags. And they're like $15 a piece. I ordered a set for Terra Mystica and ordered a set for Gaia Project.
I have some of those BGG neoprene holders for tokens and cards and things like that. I always forget I have those. I really need to put them right there in front of the game so I can pull them out.
You should.
I should. I know.
But then you came into Mega Moose Con today.
Well, I tell you what. Before we talk about today,
Okay.
let's go give our sponsors a little love.
Okay.
PortalGamesUS.com. Is there an S in there? Portal Games US, or is it Portal Game US? It's PortalGamesUS.com.
I think so.
Well, if you go out to our Rolling Dice and Taking Name, there'll be a link for you to be able to get over to
It's in the podcast notes, right?
It's in the podcast notes. It's right there.
I'm leaning back against the couch while Tony does this. I'm taking it easy.
You take it easy, rest after all that descriptions, but won't point out Essen just occurred, so you know you got the expansion to Empires of the North. Predaporter is out there for you. Learn how to play that and come teach me and Marty, because obviously we're not very good at it. That's right. Nope, not at all. And of course, we are into the month of November. If you're listening to this now or even later, then it's after November. The Kickstarter for Stronghold Undead is out there. It's coming in November.
Not if you're listening now, it's not. Not if it's...
But it will be.
Episode release, it's not out yet.
That's right. It'll be soon, though. It'll be the following week, maybe. Yes. Yeah. So, and we've got the man himself coming on. That's right, Ignacy.
Not this episode.
Not this episode, no. But the next episode.
Maybe. I don't know.
We don't know.
Are we looking at the calendar to see when he's coming on?
Oh, we know
He's coming on.
We got to get the man on. Great friend of the show. And he's a nice guy. I don't know if I said that recently. So, PortalGamesUS.com. Go check them out. See all their good stuff that has just come out, because Essen is a done thing.
I'm surprised he's still friends with us.
Surprised he still pays for this crap.
Now can I talk about the day we had at Mega Moose Con?
Sure.
Okay. But what we're going to talk about, we can't dig it deep into.
Because I hear Ignacy's coming on the show. I don't know if anybody heard about that.
I don't know. I just heard something about Ignacy coming on the show.
I hope he's coming on the show.
After that bit we just did for me, forget that.
Well, I mean, it's going to have to be on a weekend, and our weekends are pretty packed.
Yeah, we'll get it worked out. Can we handle that while we're not recording? Sure. These people don't want to hear that.
Okay.
The 6 people that are listening. Hey, Mom. So today we tried the game we've been waiting for many, 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 many years. An early prototype of Stronghold Undead, which is what Ignacy's going to come on the show and talk about, because the Kickstarter starts in November. This is a game we've been talking about for a while because we love the base game Stronghold. We'll talk more about it when Ignacy gets here and the story behind Stronghold with us and Ignacy. But ever since we heard, it's like, I'm thinking about doing an expansion. We've been on his case to do it. So it's finally coming. And he said, okay, fine, guys. I'll send you a prototype of the game. We got the rules that it was in like a Word format document. So these are early versions of the rules. And we sat down today to learn how to play it and have gone through the game. It took a little bit of time, but we got through it, and I think we got somewhat of a feel of the game.
So I tweeted out a picture, and I don't tweet much, and I had a picture of, it was just tongue-in-cheek tweet. Anything for me is simply just making fun of Marty and I. That's what it's about. And I'm sitting there looking bored while Marty's reading the rules. I was not insinuating that the rules are hard by any means. No, it's just that we are learning. So I just wanted to have fun and then also irritate Rodney.
What do you mean irritate Rodney?
Because I said, watch it played in there. I said, like, yeah.
You tagged him?
I tagged him. I said, hey, watch it played. Hurry up and get home to do a video on how to, how to play this game so that we can all, so everybody can watch it and be able to jump right into it. Because, reading rule books, it takes a little digging into it, especially on a prototype, because you're learning stuff. Because some things may not match up. Because, and it's even warned on ours. It was this is the advanced prototype of a Kickstarter of Stronghold Undead.
Right. With rules that they're still working on and tweaking. And if you've never played Stronghold, there's a lot going on.
Oh yes.
It's not complex. It's just there's a lot going on because each side plays something totally different. If you've never seen the game, the theme of the game is there's an invader and there's a defender. The defender is inside a stronghold trying to keep the invaders from breaching the walls. Meanwhile, the invaders are trying to approach the walls and break in. But the way that each side plays is totally different from each other. So, Tony, to me, it's like learning Netrunner. Mm-hmm. It's like you learn how to play the runner, then you learn how to play the court, and then there's totally different styles of gameplay. So as we're looking at the rules, you're like looking at the rules for your side. I'm looking for the rules at my side, and then I got a question about what you're doing. So I'm looking through the rule book to see what you did. You look through the rule book to see what I did. There's all these special buildings that you have on the... You played the defender side. On your side, I've got all these new spells I've never seen before that I have to learn, and these new tiles I can put out. So it was just a slow process of going through the round, and the book lays it out very well. There's these different phases, there's these different steps you go through, but each little step has something you have to consider.
And if you play the original Stronghold, it'll come back to you. I'll admit I haven't played it in a while, so I think it'll be a quick pickup. Mm-hmm. But I like some of the additions he's made. We won't go into that. We'll let Ignacy explain that in a future episode.
Right.
But I like what I saw. But people were making fun of us.
That's fair. We're used to that.
Because we were sitting there taking a while.
So the game plays over 8 rounds. Right. And the first round took a long time because, again, we're literally, both of us read the rule book before we sat at the table. But then we're literally reading it through it again together as we step through each of the steps to make sure we wanted to make sure we're doing it right.
Exactly.
So we understood it.
Because if you don't do it right, then you walk away with a bad taste. Yes. And it's not something you want to do because we have been waiting and waiting and waiting for this game. So there's a little expectation that this will be so good.
It will be. And again, we're playing with cards that were basically copy paper that was cut out and sleeved and penny sleeves. And that's fine. It's a prototype. That's what we expect. But what I was telling Tony while we was playing is that I can't wait to see what this looks like in final production because I bet since it's a Kickstarter, hopefully there's going to be a lot of little deluxe bits like was done with Predaporter. So I can't wait to see what he does with the game because it's a huge game board. It looks very impressive on the table. That's why a lot of people were stopping by. It's like, what is this?
They kept commenting on the map. That's a gorgeous layout because he changes it from the original Stronghold of being, it's still a castle, but everything's got this green tint to it, this evil, ominous tint to it. And the man's hilarious. Ignacy's funny. I mean, he tweets out. So I was paying him back, actually, from a tweet that he did to us, where he tweeted him sleeving the cards for our prototype, and they were 8.5 by 11 going into poly sheet protectors for regular sheets saying, I'm getting the cards ready for rolling dice and taking names who need big fonts. They're so funny. Back at you, big boy.
Where were you back at him?
With me sitting there looking bored like that game.
I see. No,
that's
we were not bored. Again,
oh no.
And Tony and I teased us like Tony's made some of his flow charts before for games. And I thought this game might be fun with the flow chart or something like that. So we want to check it out again. Now that we've played through it, the next game will go way quicker.
Yes.
But now that we understand it, unless we flip sides, and then you have to kind of relearn the game. I have to relearn your buildings. You have to relearn the spells that I was using this time. The spells change every round. But we just want to kind of tease what this game is and the fact that Ignacy is going to be coming on, and we're going to get a lot of the details about the differences between the original and this one. I was going to say, no, it's not an expansion. It's considered an expansion, but it's a standalone expansion. You can combine some of the elements between the two, but this is going to be a standalone box. If you don't have Stronghold, the base game, you don't need it. This is, you could play out of the box, exactly what we did with this one.
And he's coming on?
Soon to help clear all this up. But once we got that done and out of the way, it was
time to eat. Oh, I'm like, dude, really? Come on. Well,
No, or you taught a game of Silver.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yes.
So that's such a fun game. We didn't get, but I
Silver
did.
from Bezier.
But even though I was sitting there teaching it, I was still engaged. I was looking over people's shoulder and I was watching their strategy. I'm looking at them. I'm like, no, you don't want to keep that card. No, don't. Flip it. Don't. What are you doing? I couldn't see all their cards. But the best part of that whole teach was somebody sitting there correcting me.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
It was me.
No, you look at all 5 of them. No, you don't. You don't look at all 5 of them. Download the app to learn how to play it. He's getting confused.
I was totally confused with Call of Cthulhu. Wow. With Don't Mess with Cthulhu, where you get 5 cards and you look at them all, then put them down. And I was thinking, well, this is the same thing. You get 5. It's like, no, wait a minute. I haven't played Silver in about a month. And then you just look at 2 cards. Yeah, that was funny.
And we didn't play the. We have the bullet.
Bullet. Yeah, we just actually got a copy of the bullet that I'd like to look at together. We've already talked about it before, but it's the official released version we got a copy of.
And that's out now.
I don't know.
Oh, they were talking about it at Essen. That's right.
Yes.
Bezier, they had it at Essen, and I think they were selling it there.
It's going to be coming soon. I don't know if it's out in retail yet. But yeah, it's just a different version with a whole new set of cards, but these are a little bit more mean.
Yes, they are. And one of the best things is if you take Amulet and Bullet and you can combine them. There's ways to combine the cards as long as you make sure the numbers are matching up from the standpoint of the number of cards in a deck. You can really take it to the next level.
Yep.
So I hope they continue with the success of this. And if you haven't tried Silver yet, download the app. It's only single player, and then go out and get you. I mean, there ain't nothing to this game as far as cost, I hope.
And then after that, you and I set up for a flea market, which is a lot of fun.
Flea markets are always fun. We're over there slashing in the prices, but that's sold some of our games that haven't seen some love in a while, and it's always good to see them get some love from someone else. Yeah,
because I backed some Kickstarters. You backed some Kickstarters. It's like we didn't play the games a lot, so we put them out there for people to get, and that was cool because if they didn't back the Kickstarter, they get some of the extra goodies that aren't available anymore.
And thanks to Mark at Mega MooseCon for giving us that opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
And there were a lot of people that had some great games out there that, you could have taken advantage of to look at some very old games. You saw Chopper Strike.
I did. And you went and checked on it for me while I was looking. They were missing a Jeep. So I want a complete game. So, I mean, it's available on eBay, not too expensive. I was just going to see how much it was there. So, yeah, I love these little flea markets. There's a lot of old games out there that you might want to check out. But then after that, we got to go eat.
Yes, we did. We went to the front porch.
Which we talk about every year when we come to Mega MooseCon. It's this little country kitchen. It's the famous Meat and Two. Is that a thing all over, or is that just a Southern thing?
It did not impress me this year. I'm going to be honest.
Oh, you didn't like the fish? We both got fried flounder. Wasn't crazy about it?
I was not crazy about it. They overcooked it.
Oh.
So, yeah, I was kind of disappointed with this. But you can go ahead and talk about yours. I
had fried okra and fried squash.
Okay.
To go with my fried fish.
And all my time. Somebody says, I need ketchup. And that would be Marty. I'm like, okay, do you order fries? He went fried fish, fried okra, fried squash. I know he did. We talked about this. Why is he needing ketchup? Okay, this is going to be a poll at our guild 1589 where I'm going to ask, do you put ketchup on fried squash? He's over there dipping his fried squash in ketchup. What up?
I like ketchup, and usually, French fries and onion rings and fried stuff, you put ketchup on.
Okay, now one thing of the many, many years I've known you, I know you eat your fries last.
No, wait a minute. Do I?
Yes, unless you've changed, you've always eaten your fries last.
I do like to save a few fries at the end. I don't eat like a sandwich and then the fries. I eat, sandwich fry,
Okay,
but I do
think
like
you've
to finish
changed.
I do like to finish off with the fries.
Okay.
But my kids eat their fries first before the entree.
Okay, so one time, because I thought you used to eat your sandwich and then all your fries at one
I
time.
may had. And
So
then
I
maybe
didn't know.
you said something about it, and then all of a sudden subconsciously I realized I was doing it, and I said, well, I can't be like he read him like a book, and then maybe I changed because of you. So thanks.
Yeah, if you think about it today, your diet has included.
Gosh. No, can we not think about it?
So you've had Bojangles biscuit,
Yes.
which was which one?
A pork grilled pork chop biscuit.
Okay, some Diet Mountain Dews.
Lots of them.
Then you shared a basket of fries with me from Sal's.
Oh,
Food
you
Truck.
totally missed. I had one of the Bowberry biscuits that were shaped like a football. I had one of those.
You had a Bowberry biscuit.
Yep.
You had fries with me.
I had a bag of chips.
You had a bag of chips. Then you went to the front porch and had fried fish, fried squash, fried okra.
I skipped dessert.
You skipped dessert.
Everybody else got dessert except you and I.
Yeah, but I came back and had M&M peanuts, which is a requirement for me when I play a board game.
Okay, and I'm having another Mountain Dew right now.
All right.
Okay, it's a con.
It's a con. What do you do? You don't eat well.
You don't eat well. And we play games. And in fact, we played a brand new game from Space Cowboys. And it's not called Space Cowboy. It's called Joker.
Joker.
From Steve Miller. That was really kind of a surprise to me. It just is now coming out. And we're going to talk about it in a 5-minute initiative. Okay, the holidays are coming up. And like all these new games that will be coming out of Essen, it's going to start showing up in retail here at any time, is over at miniaturemarket.com. They've got faster shipping now. They got that if you spend $100, you get free shipping. They've got the stuff that when you order something, you can put it on hold and wait till your total order adds up to over 100 so you can get free shipping. You can pre-order items and have them shipped to you as soon as they're released. It is a great way to buy gifts for your friends and family this holiday. So make sure to go over to miniaturemarket.com, check out their games and their prices, and tell them Marty and Tony sent you.
Also in the search engine, if you just type the word on sale or clearance, you can see what all their recent games that have been reduced in price. You can do that as well. And also if you go out to our page at rolldicetakenames.com, you can click on any link. It'll take you straight to their page for you to order it up.
Actually, if you're listening to this on an application on your mobile device, most of them now see the description of the podcast and you can click right from your phone straight to miniaturemarket.com.
Five-minute initiative begins in 3, 2, 1.
Space Cowboys just recently released this small box game called, I'm not officially sure what it's called, Ankh'or, Ankh'or, Ankh'or. I think it's Ankh because it's an Egyptian themed game and there are Ankh tokens in it.
It's an encore. We're going to do it again
Ankh'or.
because we played this
Encore?
again. We enjoyed it so much. We played
we
the game.
did.
It was
like
an encore.
immediately we sat down and played it.
It was
played
an
it twice.
encore. We went, encore.
Yeah, because this is a game that plays in, 20, 30 minutes
That's
with,
right.
with 3 people. Number one, let me just say, when I opened the box, I was super impressed. This is a tile laying game, so I was ready to punch some tiles, Tony. But Space Cowboys has already punched all the tiles for us, has a nice little insert where all the tiles are nicely placed, and these small little acrylic or plastic tokens that are used for resources during the game. All nice and stacked.
And you didn't have to put the stickers on the tokens.
No.
It was awesome. And best of all, the rule book is less than 6 pages.
The rules are really straightforward. Take some tokens, buy a tile. Because at the core, this is a tile laying game. There is a board in the middle of the table that has different costs to different tiles that are underneath it. There are going to be 6 tiles laid out. What I like is each of the tiles will have different types of resource combinations with them. You have these resource tokens that are shuffled, and then you put in these little slots along the board, and they create different combinations of either 2 to 3 different types of tokens. And there's different colors. There's red and green and black and blue. And this might be like one time the first slot tile may be red and blue, and then the last slot token may be red, red, green. Anyway, just a random combination, which is always different. So on your turn, you're going to take up to 3 different tokens. You can have up to 5 in your hand, or you're going to pay the cost of one of those tiles, buy it, and put it down on the table for the goal of trying to allocate and align similar color tokens and tokens with similar animals on them in order to
get the most victory points for the win. And you score victory points by either connecting colors, connecting animals, or using tiles that have victory points on them. If you get 5 colors together, you get an additional 3 points. If you get 5 animals together, you get 3 additional points. So you got to think of your spacing. Now you can have multi-layers on these tiles when you put them down, but when you place them down, a tile will have to cover up 4 tiles. And if you have a special ability like the warehouse tile, which gives you the ability to store a token because you said there was a limit in your hand, that gives you the ability to add it. Fast play, but tons of strategy.
Because one token we haven't talked about is the Ankh. One of the tokens that you can take is the Ankh, and you can, as a free thing on your turn, you can refresh the tiles. You'll discard the leftmost tile, shift all of them down, and then bring new tiles into play. Because, Tony, when you buy a tile, one automatically doesn't replace it. Somebody has to spend an Ankh in order to get the tiles refreshed. And lots of times that's a waiting game and actually part of the strategy. Because there may be a tile that you want, that leftmost tile, somebody can scrap it away from you before you even have a chance to get it.
So you're watching other people's hands, what they're picking up. You are strategically looking at how they'll shift down if an Ankh is used. Do you have the right resources that are sitting there? You're also sitting there, you have 2 stacks of the replacement tiles. You can only see the top 2 colors that are coming up, and that's very important. You don't know if there's an animal, a beetle on it, or the lion, or the bird. Now, the Ankh does not take up a turn. Like you said, it's a special action, so you then get to do it. Another tile in there that is key is the scribe. If you take a scribe, you get to take another turn immediately, which means you can refresh your resources back into your hand. Once again, good game.
Another thing you can do with the Ankh is actually you can shift tiles around. You can take one tile that's already been placed and move it. Otherwise, you can't move them. So you can readjust things if you try to get 5 together of a similar type. And the game ends when 13 tiles have been placed by somebody. That will trigger the end of the game. Everybody will get an equal number of turns, and then the game ends. You count up your points. And at that time, you count up the number of similar colors or animals you have, and you get 1 point for each of those that are connected. Add up all your points, and the person with the most points wins. We played this twice. To me, this is like a Splendor tile laying game, but a lot more meaty. I love this thing, and it's this little small box. It's going to cost like $20 or so.
Great game. This will be on both of our shelves.
Oh yeah,
this is a game that I would pull out that might even beat Jaipur.
Oh, really?
Yes, I enjoy it. And, Targi, Jaipur, this can fit in there with it too.
And this is a new series of games that Space Cowboys is coming out with, a lot of 2-player games. This is it plays 2 to 4, but there's a series of like 2-player games they're going to be coming out with it, and this is one of the first. This is a good game. I really, really like this game. From the insert to the quality of the production, easy to play, a lot of meat to it. That is Ankh'or from Space Cowboys, going to be coming out soon. Get this one, y'all. This is good.
5-minute initiative is complete.
Even though our show is focused on board games, I always like to explore other formats or genres of the tabletop hobby, including role-playing games and miniature games. And typically, whenever I talk about role-playing games or miniature games, I bring on experts that live currently in my household And since we're going to be talking about miniatures today, I have my oldest son, Adam, coming back on the show. Adam, thanks for coming back.
No problem.
Whenever we talk about miniatures on the show, I always like to come at it from like an intro level, a beginner level. It's like somebody who doesn't really know anything who might have interest. And that's where we've always kind of approached these sort of topics. And I know that whenever we talked about it before, a lot of people have said, look, I'm not interested in miniatures because I don't want to have to deal assembling and painting. Well, if you don't have to deal with assembling and painting, then the miniature hobby is probably not for you.
Yeah, sorry to say it, but I mean, a good half or more of the hobby is assembling and painting. So if you're doing it, odds are that's what you like to do. I know for me, I almost like it more than actually playing the game. Like my time spent in the hobby of miniature gaming is probably like 80% painting,
right,
or 20% actually playing the game. That isn't to say I don't like playing the game. I sure do. But most of the time you're going to spend in it, working with it, is with assembling and painting. So you're going to have to like it.
Right. But then once you get beyond that, which I enjoy doing too, which is another reason why I like this aspect of the hobby, because it kind of combines crafts and games typically. But once you get beyond that, I think there's another bit of the learning curve that I know I've struggled getting over, and others may too. And that's when it comes to, well, if I want to do 40K from Games Workshop or Age of Sigmar from Games Workshop, where do I start? There's all these different factions and everything. What faction should I do? How does that work? How do you put an army or a list together? And that's what I kind of want to approach today, because Adam, you've had a problem since Age of Sigmar came out. That's kind of been our game of choice. We tend to like fantasy here more than 40K.
It's definitely my game of choice.
So we're using that as kind of an example. But since Age of Sigmar came out, you've had a problem because there's a faction that you wanted to play that you struggled getting an army together.
I did, and it's not because the army wasn't well developed. It was. The army is Beastclaw Raiders, by the way, if you're familiar with Age of Sigmar. And this is a army with an extremely low model count on the table and extremely limited unit choice. I chose them because I like the way the models look and I wanted to paint them, which is why you pretty much choose which army you want to play.
Typically, if you're not doing competitive, many people are going to go towards what looks cool and what appeals to them.
The advice I always see given is take the model that you like the most aesthetically, because you're going to be spending so much time with the models in your hands, looking at them, painting them. You want to really like what the model is and what the aesthetics of it are.
Let's go up a little bit higher level. Within Age of Sigmar, there's these things called Grand Alliances, correct?
Grand Alliances, yes. Or Grand Allegiances, one of the two, same thing.
And they are?
So they are a really broad category of model. So you can't really talk about Age of Sigmar without talking about Warhammer Fantasy. And I'm going to try to keep it short and stay on topic here. But in Warhammer Fantasy, it functioned much like it does in 40K, with each faction kind of being their isolated own thing. And you were limited to models from that faction. So one of the things they tried to do when they came out with Age of Sigmar was really broaden your choice of units. So they have these 4 grand allegiances now: Order, Chaos, Death, and Destruction. And you can include units from your Grand Allegiance from any faction or race in the list that you build. So if you have a Grand Allegiance Order army and you've got Stormcast Eternals, you can also take any other Order unit, Fire Slayers or whatever you want, and you can take it and put it in your army.
Now, when you said list is basically a list of units that you're going to put together to make an army?
A better word, I guess, would be roster.
Okay.
So yeah, it's the models that you have on the table that you're playing the game with.
Okay. Like you said, when you pick a faction, whatever, it has anything that you put with it must be under that Grand Allegiance.
Yeah, that's the broadest scope you can go.
And what different things are in each one? So you talked about Order being Stormcast Eternals. Like, I guess Death would be zombies, ghosts sort of deal.
Yeah, exactly. And these themes were present back in old Warhammer Fantasy, but they weren't compatible. If you're playing a High Elves list in Warhammer Fantasy, you must use High Elves units. In Age of Sigmar, like I said, if you're playing a Skaven army,
which are rats. They under what, by
Chaos.
the way?
They're under Grand Allegiance Chaos, so you don't have to just use Skaven units. You can also use Demons of Chaos or Everchosen as Alliance units as well. And in the competitive scene, they called these lists like Destruction Soup or Chaos Soup, where you just took a bunch of Grand Allegiance models. Now, there are tons of benefits to that. because if you've got, there are so many more units to choose from. But Games Workshop has incentivized you to also take narrower focuses as well. For example, if you are running that Stormcast Eternals list, if all of your units are Stormcast Eternals, then you can take their army or faction bonuses for Stormcast Eternals that you wouldn't get if you had units from other factions in your army. And it goes even broader than that. There's allied units, which you can take that can get certain benefits. And then there's just whole grand allegiances you can take. So you can go as narrow or as broad as you want. And there are bonuses and incentives to do all of them.
So going back to your original problem.
Right.
So you had these Beast Claw Raiders and you had a limited model count. So was your problem that there wasn't enough to build a decent list or roster where you could take advantage of those faction bonuses or alliance bonuses?
Well, I could take full advantage of my faction bonuses because all I had were Beast Claw Raiders models. So all the models that have that tag are going to be able to take those bonuses that are present for Beast Claw Raiders. But Beast Claw Raiders are ogres. And there's another faction of ogres, or there was, called the Gutbusters. So when they started up Age of Sigmar, they made this decision that a lot of people criticized back in the day and still criticize today, where they kind of just exploded factions all over the place. A good example to visualize it is if you go to the Games Workshop webpage, and at the beginning of Age of Sigmar anyway, and you click the tab under like Forces of Order, you would be greeted with 15 to 20 factions, only 3 of which were actual factions, the rest of which were just models recycled from Warhammer Fantasy that they gave their own faction keyword, despite the fact that they were being just a single model. A good example is the ogres. In Warhammer Fantasy, there was a model called a fire belly, and that was the mage of the ogres. And in Age of Sigmar, there was a whole faction called Fire Bellies that consisted of just the one model, the Fire Belly. So it didn't really make a lot of sense. People were scratching their heads. And part of the reason they did this was to encourage you to take a bunch of those models as in your Grand Allegiance army, right? Mm-hmm. But it was just confusing to look at. It was especially jarring coming from Warhammer Fantasy, where the factions were so clear, distinct, and defined. So one thing they've tried to do over the past year is coalesce and condense these factions back into these neat, compact factions and races that we're familiar with from Warhammer Fantasy and 40K. So one of the things they did was they took all the orc models, which were divided into Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters before, and they made them just orc war clans. One faction. All the orcs, one faction.
So you could put those different models together and they would all get the same bonuses?
And they would get the faction bonuses, not the Grand Allegiance bonuses.
Okay.
And that's important because faction bonuses are usually bigger and better than a Grand Allegiance. They did it with goblins too. Goblins were all over the board. Moon Clan, Spiderfang, they had all these different goblins, and then they came out with a book, a battle tome, where they put them all under one banner.
And a battle tome is like basically a faction book?
It's a faction book. They're called codices in 40K. It's a book that details all the rules and special rules for your faction. So for my Beast Claw Raiders book, it has all the faction abilities that I can take. It has the stats for all my units. It has, and of course, half of it is fluff too, which I'm really into personally.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been dealing with over the past couple of years, trying to build a list and everything, with pulling out these different ogres and stuff to try to put them together. But you maybe felt you were handicapped because it's like, well, once I throw all these together, they don't get all the same faction bonus.
It was to the point where after I got my last Beast Claw Raiders model like a year ago, I didn't need to get any more. Like as soon as I painted and finished and put together, I had all the models I needed to make pretty much any 2,000 point list I wanted. So there wasn't really any much more variety to add. It also made my faction very singular in purpose and focus. Like it could do one thing really, really well, but that's pretty much the only thing it could do because there wasn't really a lot of choices. Like to get specific, there wasn't a lot of ranged action going on in the Beast Claw Raiders. So there was no gun line to speak of. So there were clear weaknesses that were often exploited on the tabletop.
And now we come to today, and the reason why this whole discussion came up, because on November 2nd, Games Workshop has released basically, I guess, a new starter box, a new starter set to kind of get into Age of Sigmar. And what is in that box that basically got you so excited that you're like, I've got to have this?
So these boxes that Games Workshop comes out with on the regular these days, pretty much, for both 40K and Age of Sigmar, they often have 2 factions in them. And one of the 2 factions in this box is those Gutbuster ogres I mentioned.
And the box is called Feast of Bones.
Yes. Now, you might remember Gutbusters are incompatible with my Beast Claw Raiders. Not anymore. because with the release of Feast of Bones, they're also publishing a new battle tome called Ogre Maw Tribes, which once again takes all the ogre models and pushes them into one faction. So now all ogre models are fair game in your list and can take those juicy faction benefits, no matter if they were Gutbusters or Beastclaw Raiders before.
But it's the same model. So the models that you have aren't discontinued or anything, right?
No, not at all. And as a matter of fact, all the ogre models except one, they released a new one. All of them are from Warhammer Fantasy, from the old Warhammer, and they were fairly recent models then. So they look really good. They look modern. There's nothing new coming out. They're just making it more condensed and easier to get into.
So now all these ogre models that you can now put together. So before we talked about that you had a Gutbuster along beside Beastclaw Raiders. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't get each other's bonus, but now there's just one bonus they have as being like an under the ogre umbrella,
correct? Which
is still under the destruction
umbrella.
Okay,
correct. Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of a way to visualize it, but a big.
It's like a tree almost,
like it's a tree. There's a big umbrella, then a smaller umbrella, then a smaller. Kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species.
Okay, geneticist.
Yeah. Oh, you domain 2. Domain's the big one. Okay. So that's why I was really excited about this box, and a lot of people are really excited about this box because it is selling like hotcakes right now. And I don't think it's because of my beloved ogres over here, actually.
Okay.
I think it's because of the other faction, which is the opposite of the ogres. Whereas the ogres are old models from Warhammer Fantasy that they're putting under a new coat of paint and putting in a new faction. The other faction is brand new. Like these models, this Feast of Bones box is your first chance to get a hold of these models.
And what are they?
They are called the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. And
looks like skeletons.
Are some of the coolest models they have ever produced. No wonder they're selling because they are super, super cool. When Warhammer Fantasy was retired,
retired quotation marks.
Listen, Warhammer Fantasy is very near to my heart. First fantasy world I ever read about and fell in love with. Travis and I both agree. It's our favorite fantasy world.
Which is why you continue to this day play tons of Total War.
Warhammer. It's my favorite game to play right now. Love it to pieces. Anyway, I also love Age of Sigmar to pieces. As much as I loved Warhammer Fantasy, I've grown to really love Age of Sigmar. But what I was getting at was one of the factions that they did away with in the transition was the Tomb Kings, which was not a fan favorite faction at the time. It is now, just because of nostalgia purposes. But it was a pretty low selling faction, so they just nixed it. So the Ossiarch Bone Reapers were developed as kind of a stand-in for the Tomb Kings. Like they're skeletal, but they're more than just plain skeletons. To get into the lore a little bit, they are each a unique soldier fashioned from the bones that are forcibly collected from the people of the mortal realms. Pretty crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
But each model is made of different bones, like an amalgam of bones put together to make a soldier. And that's what makes these models look pretty cool.
I love the Night Haunts, and I have a lot of Night Haunts. So I assume that this is under the Death.
It is.
Allegiance.
Grand Allegiance Death.
So I could take some of those and make a list with the Night Haunts, but then those that are in this
Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
They have their own faction bonus.
Yes.
So all those models would get that are together. And then my Night Haunts also would get a faction bonus, but there might be a reason I want to build a list that has both of them in it.
Oh, absolutely. And I guarantee you that in the competitive scene, which I am not in, there will be lots of people running just death armies with both Ossiarch Bone Reapers and Night Haunts because they tend to work together really well, which is right? Because they're the same thing, more or less. But it comes down to tags, right? To keywords, I should say. Night Haunt models have the keyword Night Haunt. Ossiarch Bone Reaper models have the keyword Ossiarch Bone Reapers. So in the battle tomes for Night Haunts and the Bone Reapers, they're each going to have these special rules, but they'll usually have language like all models with Ossiarch Bone Reapers gain XYZ. And some that will even say if your entire army consists of models with Ossiarch Bone Reapers keyword, they get this faction bonus. So it all comes down to what keywords you have and the literature of the rules themselves.
So maybe the easiest way to get into this game is pick a faction, get that battle tome, maybe just play in that faction for a little while. That way you make sure everything works together. I mean, you can obviously mix and match later on, but for somebody who's just getting into it, that might be a good place to start. In fact, a box like this is probably a good place to start if you're interested in one of these two factions.
Absolutely. And it's even a good place to start even if you're not interested in one of these two factions, just to know what it's like to put together a model and paint it.
What else comes in the box besides the models to get you started?
The box is largely model, but it also comes with, well, this booklet that tells you how to put them together. That's kind of important. It comes with a condensed version of the core rules and a little, they call it the Feast of Bones book. It's a little, it's pretty thick, actually. I'm holding it in my hands right now. Pretty robust little booklet detailing the lore and background of the story of the box, because each box has a story attached to it. And the models themselves are characters in the story. And then it has a bunch of different scenarios that are only present in this book, a bunch of rules that are only present in this book. And then, of course, it also has War Scroll cards for all the models, so you can see all their stats.
So that's the big Age of Sigmar game. But many times on this show before, we've talked about Warcry and even Warhammer Underworlds.
Right.
But a lot of those models go across all of those. If I remember correctly, the Warhammer Underworlds is probably the easiest game to get into. You have a set faction. This is what you're going to use. You have some cards you can change your deck. But the models of those factions are actually included in battle tomes that can be used and built and list for Age of Sigmar.
It is not a lot of those models. All of those models have rules that can be used in Age of Sigmar. As soon as Games Workshop puts out a model separate from Age of Sigmar or 40K, usually in these Warhammer Underworlds or Warcry, etc., they will publish rules for you to use them in your main army on the tabletop. I've used Shadespire warbands in lists before, and it adds a little extra wrinkle to it for sure, because they usually have some crazy abilities or something like that. They usually work together really good as a unit. So they will always have the option to use those as well.
And then one step up from that is the Warcry, which looks more like a board game. It's a fewer model count, more of a skirmish game, plays in 30 to 45 minutes. But once again, those models can be used in Age of Sigmar. But again, you're limited. So every model, you can't pull every model together and throw it into a Warcry warband. There's rule sets for different models. And you might have to go out and buy a box of the Age of Sigmar models in order to build certain lists. Or if you're doing the Stormcast Eternal, some of the Warhammer Underworlds war bands were actually part of the Warcry list. And then from there, you can expand it to the bigger games. So they've really kind of developed these tiers for this really quick 30-minute card game up to like a 45-minute skirmish board game to the full thing. But the model starting at the bottom will go all the way up through the top and can be used all the way at the big game.
It's really smart, this model that Games Workshop has put together, where it is you get curious about this. You're like, maybe I want to try this. And then they're like, well, here's Warhammer Underworld's super low model count. And then here's Warcry, also low model count. You can just see if you like do it together. And then you're like, well, maybe I want to try and put together a bigger list with these Stormcast Eternals or Orcs or whatever I have. And I'll buy a couple more boxes of models, put them together. It's kind of like this cheeky little, hey, first one's free kind of from Games Workshop, because they'll get you.
Right.
They'll get you.
Right. I guess that somewhat exists in the 40K universe. If people are interested in sci-fi, there is the Kill Team.
Right.
There's not like a Warhammer Underworld's equivalent in a 40K.
There's not. And I think part of that is just because 40K is just way more popular. So that it has this kind of pop culture energy behind it, where it's just kind of like a household name at this point, especially in like gaming communities. So people just know it. And they're like, if I want to try it, I've got plenty of resources to do it. But Age of Sigmar is super young. Age of Sigmar is they're really focusing on providing players with a lot of opportunities to get into it.
So talking through all that, it may sound like that building a list, building an army, or roster, whatever, is super complicated, but it's not. You can just kind of focus in on one faction, get the battle tome for that one faction, just kind of thumb through the book, pick some models that you like. If you're not worried about competitive stuff, right? The models have, I guess, what's called points. And there's points meaning number values. And these can vary. The points that are used in Warcry for a particular model is going to have a different points value in Age of Sigmar, but that would be part of the battle tome. And then when you have a game, there's these different types of games. So 1,000-point game, 1,500-point game, 2,000-point game. And that's where you can thumb through the book and go, well, I want 3 of those, and those are 300 points a piece or whatever, and there's 900 points. You can just kind of build from there.
And Games Workshop has gotten super creative, and there's all these crazy kinds of battles. There's no longer where you're just lining up your troops on the opposite side of the table and going at each other. Like, they have ones where you set up like encircled or like siege underground, and then most of them have varying model counts and point counts. So there are scenarios that are low model count, there are scenarios that are high model count. So there's really, whatever whatever you want to do, it's out there.
Like you said, Games Workshop keeps releasing these big boxes over and over with different factions. And I know that something else is going to happen because we're getting close to Christmas. They release special box sets around Christmas too, don't they?
They sure do. Year round, they have the Start Collecting boxes, which are a really, really good value to get into Warhammer with, 40K or Age of Sigmar. They have them for pretty much every faction, every major faction. But at Christmas time, they release something called Battle Force boxes, which are bigger boxes that feature more models. They usually have, I think, 4 for Age of Sigmar, 4 for 40K, so 8 total. They are more expensive, but the value for these boxes is incredible. Like, there are some boxes where you're getting immense value on the models that are in them.
And in fact, if you look on the internet, I remember last year, people took each of those models and priced them individually and showed you what the value of the box was. And there were some that I think these boxes cost what, $200
I think they're like 180 to 200.
180, 200. But some of the values of some of these were in the 300s.
Yeah, you were saving hundreds of dollars on some of these, which is insane.
That's another way to get into it. Hopefully one of the factions that comes out in these boxes might be something that you're interested in. And those sell pretty quick.
They do. They sell out. Well, they're only for Christmas, so they only make a certain amount of them. And once they're gone, they're gone.
And otherwise, if you do miss those, like you said, there's the Start Collecting. And like you bought the Start Collecting Beast Slayers.
I bought 3 of them.
3 core boxes.
Well, once again, because there's low unit choice. So when you have 3 Start Collecting boxes, that's pretty much all you need for a 2,000 point list right there.
And now you can start bringing in these other ogres into your list.
I'm very excited about this. Like this is very, very good news for me.
So there you go. There's a quick overview of basically kind of like list building in this game. How do you get into it? And Adam, like you said, I think probably the easiest way is just find something that looks or sounds cool, and maybe just start there.
Yeah, just find whatever it draws you in. Read a little bit of the lore, whatever you like, whatever it jives with you. If you like ghosts, there's something there. If you like skeletons, now there's something there. Like there, whatever you're into, there's something for it. Don't just pick like Stormcast just
because there's everything Stormcast.
Listen, there's a lot of Stormcast are great. I will take the bullet of saying that they are way better than Space Marines, narrative wise, design wise. I love the Stormcast. Maybe try something. There's so much Stormcast out there.
And if you want to check out some prices on some of these and get some of these, you can go over to miniaturemarket.com, which is a Games Workshop online store. They usually have very good prices. There is a fixed discount that you can get on Games Workshop games, but Miniature Market has the highest discount that you can have.
Yeah.
And typically when we do order from Miniature Market because you do get that discount there.
No, that is true. They do have the best deals there.
So there you go. List building under Age of Sigmar. Adam, thanks for coming on. You have been for the past several days putting models together, doing a lot of painting. You're probably going to be ready to get these suckers to the table and play a game soon.
I'm close to halfway.
Close to halfway.
Well, I've got all the ogres assembled and I'm in the process of painting. The Bone Reapers I'm still working on, but it'll get there.
Nice.
It'll get there.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks, Adam.
No problem.
So episode number 184, Enter the Sandman, is coming to an end. I know y'all are tired of hearing about food. Matter of fact, Marty and I probably haven't eaten in about 3 hours here at Mega Moose Con. We probably need to get something else.
No. You ate about an hour and a half ago when you had that bag of M&Ms.
Oh, that's right. Well, dessert never counts.
Wow. I wish.
Yeah.
Tell my waist that.
Yeah. So, but I'm going to mention a success story.
Okay, please. I like success stories.
I know. So we mentioned a while back a gentleman, Doug Hetrick, Hetttrick.
Hetttrick.
My buddy Doug. He contacted us about a game that he got on Kickstarter called Kapow.
Mm-hmm. That was the superhero or the comic book hero theme game, right?
Right, where you're going in and you are creating dice to create their special powers so that you can roll.
Like creating, like actually putting sides or little tiles on, like
Dice Forge.
Yeah.
And so you're doing that, and you're doing one of my favorite things, rolling dice. Don't say in taking names.
It's not that time yet. And it's not the outro.
No, not the outro time. He created that. He sent us a copy. We played it. I donated it to our local Carolina Tabletop game so other people could get a play in. And I'm happy to report that White Wizard has picked that up.
So White Wizard Games, who does Star Realms and recently Sorcerer that we just covered has now picked up Kapow.
That is correct. Doug has gotten Kapow to White Wizard Game, and that means it's going to be able to get a lot more distribution. Doug, congratulations on that. One of the things I hope this will give him the opportunity to do is be able to maybe create some more superheroes. Get maybe just one more a minor expansion. Just get a few more people out there, because there's something about whenever you have a game like this where you have individuals you're battling, you always want to say, well, what's new powers that I can use? What's something else that I can do? So maybe 2, 3, 4. I hope they do that for them, or maybe they'll take the game and even it has some great components, but they can elevate it even more.
And I think this is a perfect fit with White Wizard Games because, again, when you're talking about 2-player games and they're 2-player card games like Star Realms and stuff, it's a lot of fighting, take that, try to beat each other down. So it's in that same theme, same mechanic, but instead of cards, that you're using dice. So I think it's a great an arrangement relationship between those two entities, because Kapow totally makes sense with that publishing company. That's amazing. That's great. And you actually talked to him at the Secret Cabal meetup at Gen Con, right?
Yeah, he reached out to me, and I really appreciate it. So, Doug, keep it up. We're happy for you, man. That is awesome that you'll be able. If you did not get a chance to play Kapow, now you'll get the chance, and if you won't, go back and listen to an episode where we did it, and I haven't pulled it up because I don't have any Wi-Fi here in this green room.
And I believe they're going to be coming out with like a new version, updated version. It's going to be coming out in 2020. White Wizard will be. So again, congrats, and be looking for a version of Kapow coming out from White Wizard Games in 2020.
That's it for me. Well, you got anything else? I don't have anything else, man.
No, because I'm a beat. We have been up for a while, and all we've done really all day is sit on our butts and eat.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling kind of blah right now.
Yeah.
It's getting late here at Mega Moose Con. We're going to have to get out of here. And thanks again to Mark for hosting us this year. We love working with him. Mark is from the guy from our Scurry Report. This is our 3rd year being at Mega Moose Con. He's already picked out dates for next year. It's going to be earlier next year. He had to move it into October this year because the convention center was remodeling, and this was the only time he could get it. But I think he's going to go back to like a September time frame next year. So we'll definitely let you know when he picks a date for that, because we want you to come down. We had a lot of our listeners here hanging out with us and wearing our shirts, surprisingly, which was nice. So thank you to all of them that did that. Chris and Angel and Kent and Bert and...
I know, and Roy came down from Epic
Roy from Dice Tower.
Dice Tower, sorry. Sorry, Dice Tower. He was here. That was great for him. Got to see a lot of good friends.
It was great for him. It was great for us.
Great for us
to see him.
We got to see Nate's new game. I didn't get the chance to play it, OP Arena.
And we actually have a card in there.
Yes, we do.
The 2-headed Etten is based on our likenesses.
Yeah.
I still have yet to see it.
You haven't? Yeah, he posted a picture of it over in the Slack channel.
Oh, I need to go back and look at it.
Yeah,
so there, we need to get a copy of that game, because it's like a first time that's ever happened to us.
I got to see the production copy of Silver River.
Oh, nice. From Nate. That's nice.
That's nice. So it's looking good for those of you who backed it. Looking forward to hopefully getting a play of that in soon. And more than anything, I can't wait to keep rolling dice
and taking names. Once again, if you want to come and talk about anything that you want in our guild over 1589, even if it's not games, in fact, we don't even really expect it to be games. And if you want to join our Slack channel, you can do that by contributing to us over at our Pod Pledge page, which is on our website. And we would greatly appreciate that. Thanks to all those who've supported us so far. I haven't got official word from Miniature Market, but typically they run a Black Friday sale. So they always had this big Black Friday sale where you can get a lot of their organizers and inserts at a discounted price. Am I doing Miniature Market or Broken Token?
You should be doing Miniature Market.
I was totally thinking Broken Token the whole time. That's why I said organizers.
BrokenToken.com. They've got your organizer that you need for that game. Matter of fact, when we were at Mega Moose Con, I saw somebody open up a game, and he was like, oh, man, they didn't even have baggies in that game. There were cards everywhere and little chits laying out in this game. You had to organize.
You had to be careful when you
Yeah, I
said
did.
you went chits.
Because, I was thinking about last time when you had to bleep me out.
Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah. It was like, people were like, what is going on here?
So, but over at the Broken Token, you can get those organizers for your games. You can get very nice game trays, whatever you need. They've got it all. Plus, they've got a whole bunch of other stuff for role-playing games to set up. They've got some additional coinage if you want to bling out your games a little bit. And one of the things, after I cleaned out my closet, I was able to repurpose some of the board game bands that hold your boards.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about those. They make those too, which are nice.
Those are very
for
nice.
holding the top of the box together on the.
So when you stand them up
box.
vertically, they're
Yeah.
they're compressing down. Oh, yeah, that's a clap. So that's
That's a clap.
thebrokentoken.com. We're Punchy and we're out.